Hi everybody, it's Russ from My Hammers 11. I hope everyone is safe and well. Today's guest, he was a former sports editor for News of the World and lifelong West Ham fan. It's Paul McCarthy. Hi Paul, how are you?
Yeah, Russ, good, thanks. Well, as good as well as we can be in these very strange times.
Very, very strange. We don't know what's happening, but it doesn't matter. We're not talking about anything like the pandemic.
No.
It's all about West Ham, all
It's
about
nice.
memories.
It's nice to talk about anything other than COVID-19 at the moment.
Exactly.
It's a bit of a relief, frankly.
I know, exactly. So what we're doing, we're interviewing loads of fans all over the world, different ages, about their memories of West Ham, as well as sort of finding out a bit more about the players that meant the most to them, or might have meant the least to them. It doesn't really matter. So that's what we're trying to do, and sort of catalogue all these memories for prosperity on YouTube. So we've got a really good sort of response so far. So obviously, thank you for your time, Paul. Appreciate you. You're busy.
No, pleasure.
In terms of your sort of West Ham fan career, so to speak, as illustrious it may be, what was your
burden is the word you're looking for.
Exactly. What would be your sort of earliest West Ham memory, Paul?
I was trying to think this when you contacted me, and I was just trying to think back. I would say, I think it was the 1974-75 season. Would have been the first time I went. I would have been about 8, I think.
Yeah.
And then you go, and it becomes part of your, I don't know, heritage, birthright. I'm not sure what the word is. We joke West Ham fans as it is being a burden. I remember, just to divert a little bit, I remember taking my son. Well, I didn't take. I was working for the FA Cup final against Liverpool. And obviously we thought we'd won it, and then Gerrard pops up, and then penalties, and I was up in the press box, but my son, who's 22 now, he went with my dad and a load of friends and uncles, and he was in tears at the end. It's not the first game that he'd been to see, but it was the first time he'd seen West Ham in an FA Cup final. Or any kind of final, really, and he was in tears at the end of it, to take him to Wembley again, just him and I, when we beat Blackpool in the playoff final. So it's like that. I think your whole memories about West Ham, any club you support, I guess, are always coloured by the massive highs and the massive lows, and that's what I've said to my son. That's it's part and parcel of being a football fan. It's especially part and parcel of being a West Ham fan. But there's nothing better than actually being, as a youngster, I guess, like 8, 9, 10, however old you are, just being part of a mass, if you like, and a massive love who shares the same desires, shares the same ambition, and that's what it's being about. And it's like being an individual in a crowd, but feeling part and parcel of that. And that's what being a football fan for me is all about. Being a West Ham fan, especially at night games at Upton Park, on the Chicken Run, wherever you may have been, in the safe seats later on, the Bobby Moore Upper. And then basically just growing up with those kind of memories, night games, walking from the tube station to the ground, all the smells, whatever they were cooking,
whatever meat that was,
in the burgers, and the routine. Those are the memories, just that, which will stay with you for life.
Yeah, and I remember when you'd go, as you said, when you had your spot, you go in the concourse. If someone was there before you,
you get the arm. You go, well, we stand here.
We're going to lose now.
Yeah,
we're going to lose.
Yeah, exactly. And you would wear the same things as well. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Even if you'd lost the last game, you would still. Oh yeah, but if I wear this again, it's mad. I mean, I never ever, and I had it drilled into me, never wear colours. You never wear a top. You're not a player. You don't wear your listen. No disrespect because you've got your shirt on now.
I'm not. It's not a match day, so it's all right.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I never ever wore a kit. Never wore a kit. And if I saw people wearing if somebody said to me, "Oh, why don't you put your kit?" No. Never wear a kit. Never wear a kit. And it was, drummed into me. You're not a player. You go and support. If you've got a flag, a scarf, or whatever, fine. But I never ever wore a kit to the game, and I don't know. It's just something that always stuck with me. And my son now, I say, no, if you go, don't ever wear a kit. It's just one of those silly little things.
Yeah, no, I know. Everyone has their own silly superstitions.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's a silly little idiosyncrasy that you have.
And that's the thing. It's just that's what is funny about this channel. All these little things are coming up, and it just everyone can relate to the stories and things. And as you said, like the FA Cup final, but then going to Wembley, properly Wembley for the playoff final, and all those it sort of eradicates that 2006 memory. And obviously, wasn't it? We went 3 years in a row to Cardiff, didn't we? Because I think we had 2 playoff finals, which we won one, lost one, and then Wembley's, then the FA Cup rather. So.
Yeah, Neil Shipperley will always stick in my mind.
And that bloody song though, those Crystal Palace song, "Glad All Over."
I don't know about you, Russ, but that was just embarrassing. All the T-shirts that the club had printed for the players, like more than a club, and it was just I was embarrassed.
Well, it's hindsight's a lovely thing, isn't it? With these things, isn't it? But if it was the other way round, we would have been, everyone. And that's the fickle world of football, isn't it? So you said 1 week there you're a fan favourite, next week you're you've been trolled on Twitter. So it's right. Let's go on to your 11. So as I said, there's a few rules.
Okay.
Just to narrow you. Yep. One of them is. Try and keep it to a 4-4-2 formation.
Done that. It is a 4-4-2, so I'm sticking to that. That's fine.
Okay. As long as you haven't put like Paolo Di Canio right back or something, that's fine.
Let's go.
And then
we'll come on to that.
Okay, all right. Looking forward to that. A spoiler alert then. So the other one is you have to be alive to have seen them play. So obviously I can't put in Bobby Moore, but I could put in Malky Mackay, Andy Melville, someone like that.
Okay.
If I really wanted to.
Sounds like a fair swap. Sounds like a fair swap to me.
Yeah, it's all yin and yang. And the last one is it's your 11, so it doesn't have to be the best players. It can be it's your favourite players, or it could be the worst players, or the best. Whatever, it's up to you, and that's a great thing.
Yeah.
So who have we got in goal for Paul's 11 then?
Phil Parkes.
Yep.
Probably an obvious choice. But I remember him playing for QPR and thinking, God, how good is he? Wasn't so sure about the Cossack hairspray adverts, but when we bought him, and I think it was 560 grand, which was a world record.
Wow.
For a goalkeeper at the time, and Manchester United had been trying to sign him, and everybody thought he would go to Manchester United, and then he rocks up at West Ham because we paid the money, and it was I think it was one of those signings that you went, oh my God, he is absolutely brilliant. And there's no disrespect to anybody who may have played in goal before him, but that was a real statement, and he gave us 9 years of brilliant service. Funny enough, I looked him up in the record books before I came on because I wanted to see actually how many games he played, because he seemed to be there forever for me. He played exactly the same amount of league games for West Ham as he did for QPR, 344. So every people who I know at QPR talk about him as being their favourite goalkeeper at QPR, and he was by far and away the best goalkeeper I've ever seen at West Ham. And I just thought he was great. Everything about him. I don't think you'd ever classify him as being cool or suave, but he just had that. He just had a really good image about him, and he was just a very, very good goalkeeper.
Yeah. Fair shout. I think hard to disagree with that, Paul. That's for sure. Right, so we put Parksy between the sticks. Who are we going for as your left back then?
Oh, left back, starting that way, eh? It was a bit of a toss up, but in the end, I went for Frank Lampard Senior.
Yep.
I just think he was I think he was really underrated by the fans. I think he was, he played for England. People seem to forget. It may have only been a couple of times, but he played for England. I think he was incredibly consistent. West Ham fans will always remember him for the 1980 FA Cup semi-final replay, where he fell over in the 6-yard box and it bounced up the top of his head and into the bottom corner against Everton, and then the fantastic jig round the corner flag. But he was a very composed player. We talk about left backs now as providing, they've got to be as good going forward as they were defensively. And Frank Lampard was really good going forward, very strong. Once he got on one of those runs going forward, it was difficult to stop him. I mean, I toyed with Julian Dix. I just felt Julian Dix was a bit too cliched for me. I just think he felt like he was playing up to the fans too often to be the sort of hard man, stereotypical sort of bully boy kind of defender. But Frank, who knows him, will call him. Takes it for me.
Okay, Frank, no problems. We'll put Frank Senior in, and we'll put Senior in just in case. Right. Okay, so put Frank. We'll go the other side. We'll do right back. Who we got on right back then?
Okay. Tonka.
Ray
Stewart.
Yeah.
No nonsense. Not exactly too many frills about him. Second best penalty taker I've ever seen behind Matt Letizia. Completely different in style.
Yep.
But just one of those players who you just liked. I think the fans loved him. There were times when every player, good, bad, or indifferent, the fans might get on their back. I never heard anybody get on Ray Stewart's back. And I think he was just outstanding. He was just reliability. If you wanted, the biggest tribute you could pay is I don't think I saw him have a game where you would have marked him below 7 out of 10.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, exactly. And with Ray as well, I mean, he's still so revered when he comes on the pitch at half time, or there's a union thing with Billy Bonds with the stand and stuff.
It doesn't look like he's changed either.
No. He's still
got the same haircut.
And you still can't understand what he says.
No. And I'm not sure too many left wingers understood what he said. He said that you're only going to go one way, and that's in row Z.
Exactly, and that ability to hit a penalty as hard as nails. No one does that anymore. No one does it. No. It's all the dinks and the little side foots, and actually,
I never saw him. And you knew what he was going to do, and I think the goalkeepers knew what he was going to do. But the power and the accuracy was phenomenal.
Yeah. No, I agree. Okay, so put Frank on the left, Lampard Senior on the left, put Ray on the right. Who are we going to have at centre backs then, Paul?
My two centre backs are Rio Ferdinand and Alvin Martin.
Yeah.
Two completely different players. Rio, I think, he may not have had the peak of his career at West Ham, but anybody who saw him from the youth team upwards, which I did, just immense. One, I'd probably put him in my top 3 best ever West Ham players.
Wow.
I just think everything about him oozed class. He came in, he was very raw, but and he made his mistakes, but you just knew that you were in the presence of greatness when you watched Rio play. One of the best passing defenders I've ever seen. Loved the way when he was at West Ham and it followed on at Leeds, where he broke out from the back. I know Sir Alex Ferguson put a kind of stop to that. He just wanted his defenders to defend, but he could have played anywhere across the back 4. He could have probably played anywhere in midfield. If you think about it now, he would have been the perfect holding midfielder now. Not the sort of scurry around type, but the sort who could actually launch attacks from that place. And I wish he'd have been able to stay longer, but that kind of money you couldn't turn down. And I've got to know him over the years. And listen, I think he's made his mistakes off the pitch, but on the pitch, exemplary, absolutely exemplary.
Yeah, well, Harry called him Rolls Royce Rio, didn't he? And
he did. Yeah.
It's very, very true. Okay, so and Alvin, obviously, he's going to partner him.
Yeah, completely different player. If you wanted a West Ham defender to defend for your life, I'd go for Alvin. I'd go for Alvin Martin. What you see is what you got, but what you got was absolutely immense. I loved him as a player. I like him as a bloke. I've got to know him over the years from his work in the media.
Yeah.
He's just an absolutely straight up and down fella. I think all the players that I've picked had something in common in that they knew what pulling on the shirt meant. There have been lots of West Ham players who have probably been better players than the 11 that I've picked, but not all of them recognised or realised what it meant to play for the club.
Sure.
Alvin Martin did from the first moment he put on a West Ham shirt and put his boots on. He was the kind of guy that you wanted to have at your side as a fan. Again, a bit like Ray Stewart, as a fan, you never felt that he'd let you down in any game.
No, agreed. And I think, and I like the way Rio and Alvin would complement each other potentially.
Yeah, I mean, you just have Alvin going. Alvin would be your kind of Vidic character when Rio and Vidic played together, when they were the best two central defenders in the country, in Europe, probably as a pair. And I think Alvin and Rio would have been exactly the same.
I like that. Okay, so we got your back four, we got your back five now. Okay, so it goes in midfield then, Paul? Who's going to go left wing? Let's go left wing.
Well, I'm gonna. I don't know. I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna play a diamond. I'm gonna play 4.
That's fine.
But it'll be a diamond.
That's
if
fine.
There's any criticism of this team, it will be that they're lacking width. But with Ray Stewart and Big Frank going on the overlaps, then I think we can box that off. So at the base of the diamond, I've got Bonzo.
Yeah.
So him, he was a hero. He was everybody's hero.
Yeah.
I've only ever met him once. He was the most unassuming character that you could ever wish to meet. And listen, the tales of him are legendary about sort of, made his debut for Charlton, never leaving South London, through the Blackwall Tunnel every day to training, impeccably, trained impeccably, no frills about him, did his job, went home. There was nothing else about him. All he wanted to do was play football for West Ham. Great captain, the best captain I think we've ever had. Lifted the FA Cup twice. I remember in the 75 team, there was him, Frank Lampard and Graham Padden all had the same beard and moustache, and they were really sort of and the long sort of like 70s hair as well. And it was like I remember when the FA Cup final used to be special, when the ITV and BBC would have they'd have exactly the same match, but they would be in different camps. And I think it was ITV were in the West Ham camp. ITV went in the West Ham bus, and BBC went in the Fulham bus. I think the Fulham bus was a bit more glamorous because it had Moro and excuse me, Rodney Marsh and people like that. But there was they were like the three desperados with the rugged beard and the no nonsense looks. And Bonzo was always a bit of a hero for me, I have to say. Just a really, really good, playing this, complimented, having Trevor Brooking, who I'll come along to in a second, but complimented him, that sort of win at all cost mentality, but not nasty, just just so hard, and carried West Ham on many an occasion when the more the leading lights weren't at the races, and just great. Just thought he got treated abysmally by the club when he was manager, and never saw him again. Would have played for England had he not had an injured toe. I wish he had picked up an England cap, because I think that would have been a great testament to a career that ended only when he was what was he 41 years old when he played his last game for West Ham.
Crazy. Yeah, absolutely crazy. All right, okay, so put Bonzo in. Yep. Who else? Who's next, Paul? Who's next?
Okay, so Bonzo at the base of a diamond, the 2 points either side of him. Probably probably no surprise. Trevor Brooking.
Yeah.
One of the best moments of my life and one of the worst moments of my life all came in one. I played against Trevor, and I had to mark him in midfield. and excuse me, and he nutmegged me, and I wanted to boot him up in the air, but I couldn't, obviously, because he's Trevor Brooking, and it was hugely embarrassing. But it was also one of those moments where you think, okay, I'm in the guy's still got something about him. I'm not sure how old he was, but I was 18, 19. I was, back in those days, quite fit, and I put myself about a little bit, and he nutmegged me like, it was the easiest thing in the world. And I was hugely embarrassed, but it was also one of the moments of my life, because I could go back to my dad and say, I played against Trevor today. How did you do? Oh yeah, all right, yeah. Well, yeah. Well, he nutmegged me once, but so we laugh about that. We still laugh about that. But I've got to know Trevor over the years. Been very fortunate to get to know Trevor quite well. He is an absolute gentleman. I know everybody says it, and I'm sure it's a cliche that he's sick and tired of hearing, but he's just a wonderful human being. I think what he's done for West Ham as a player, as a manager, as an ambassador, I think, him and Bonzo are just right up there at the very pinnacle of West Ham's heritage.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Okay, so put Trev on one side then of that diamond. Okay, who are we going to have on? Just carry
Noble.
on, Paul.
Yeah, Mark Noble. I love the way that he's helping Declan Rice to develop. I hope Declan Rice stays for a relatively long time. He's not going to be there forever, but to have Mark Noble alongside you, tutoring you just on what the game means, what football means, how to get through a game, how to manage a game. There's nobody better. I thought about 2 or 3 years ago he'd gone. I thought his legs had gone. I thought, he was never the quickest. But he's a very intelligent player, and he's now found himself a position where he doesn't have to do the sort of shuttling the dog work in midfield anymore. His positional sense is absolutely top class. I think he's a very, very good leader. He's a decent passer of the ball. He could score more goals for my liking over the years. But he is dependable. He's there. And at the moment, when I think this current West Ham team for the last 3 or 4 years has been slightly faceless, slightly lacking in character and personality, Mark Noble has led by example. He's led from the front, and just a top class individual, top class bloke.
Yeah, totally.
Really, I'm not saying he's the best player I've ever seen, but I'd have him in my team all the time, every time. It's a bit like Billy Bonds. Billy Bonds is not the best player I've ever seen in a West Ham shirt, but he's the one I'd want in a West Ham shirt every moment of every game. And
that's what's important to this 11. Yeah. Okay, so put Nobes in. So who's going to be that last point? He's going to be in that
the
diamond.
The point for diamond is, it would be an unusual position for him, but he was such a great player, and I mean truly a great player, that Alan Devonshire could play. He was with the ball, he could pass the ball, he could score a goal. He was, he looked like a gust of wind would blow him over, but he was hard. He took the knocks. Unfortunately, he had his share of injuries, which curtailed his West Ham career. But just a beautiful player. When you talk about players that you love watching, Alan Devonshire, the way he would pick the ball up, all quite deep at times, in almost 10, 15 yards the other side, in West Ham's half, and then suddenly in the blink of an eye, he was past 2 or 3 players, and he'd be on the edge of the box. He was his creativity was outstanding. He was bright. He always wanted the ball. He was never scared of a situation. He never looked overawed. Never got to know him, never got to meet him, but just looked at him from afar and thought, what a great player. He would be, again, he'd be in my top 3 as all-time heroes. Him, Bonzo, and Sir Trev. They would be my top 3 West Ham players that I've seen over the years.
Sure. And as someone already said before, $5,000. What can you get for $5,000 these days?
Yeah, just when you got the ball, or when he got the ball rather, you were excited. There was a buzz, and over the years, there've only probably been a handful of players who got you out of your seat. He was certainly one of them.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so we'll put Dev in. Okay, who's going to be spearheading your attack then, Paul? Who are you
Probably
two?
predictable to the last, I would say, but Cotti and McAvenny.
Okay,
I
yeah,
can't split them. I'm going to talk about them as a pair because they were always a pair.
yeah,
Brilliant, both brilliant players. The sort of, you know, when you look back on the great West Ham teams, you would put those, whatever era you're in, you'd probably put those two and in the team and think, yeah, they couldn't be matched as a pair. Not saying individually they were very good players, both excellent goal scorers, top finishers, but they just complemented them, and that's why I've put them. That's why they're, Cotti and McAvenny and Cotti. They're not interchangeable, but they're there as a pair. Listen, their goal record, their goal tally speaks for themselves. The way they carried West Ham, there was glamour about Benny. I wasn't always sure about his lifestyle off the pitch, but Cotti was a great player, really, industrious, smart, worked hard at his game, knew where he had that Gary Lineker thing about him where you knew if the ball broke in the box, he would be there.
sure.
He would be absolutely on it. He read the game brilliantly. McAvenny was far more flamboyant and was probably far more of a natural player and a natural striker. But Tony Cotti worked hard, and you speak to people who played with Tony Cotti every day. He was work on his finishing, work on his movement off the ball, work on finding that little element of space in the 6-yard box that defenders, didn't know how to pick him up or where to find him. McAvenny was more skillful. McAvenny was more elegant as a player, but as a pair, they were absolutely fantastic. Listen, I hold my hands up. It's entirely predictable to pick those two. I'd be astonished if they weren't in 9 out of 10 people's 11s. But we touched on it earlier. If you're asking me whether Di Canio gets in ahead of either of those two, absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, Di Canio probably more skillful, more talented, more blessed as a player, but mate, he never played outside the M25 in a game that really mattered. He let the team down. His attitude stunk to high heaven, and I just found him to be. You speak to managers who work with him. Sorry, I was getting overexcited there. Managers who work with him, would say, yeah, he's a great player, but, and there was always a but. And with the players that I've picked in this team, I don't think there was ever a yeah, but kind of attitude to him,
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. But I mean, it's.
Would you argue with that? Would you argue with Di Canio? Would Di Canio be in your 11?
I wasn't. I mean, to be honest, I started around my West Ham career was probably 92, 93, so I never saw Macca play. I wasn't sort of I mean, he was in mine, but that's the idea of this. The idea is everyone's got their own opinions and love some players and hate some players. I love John Moncur, and that was the era I was born up in. So and that's what's great. Although those a few predictable names come up in most people's, some people have put in, McAvenny, some people put Di Canio, some people put in Declan Rice, Dev's appeared in lots, but you've got a nice balance, I think, in your team as well. I think you've got a few.
Yeah, if anything, it does lack a little bit of width, and I would be the first to admit that. But I want my fullbacks getting forward. So with Tonka and Big Frank, I think you wouldn't have to tell them twice to get forward.
No, and if it all kicks off, I think there'll be plenty of boys who take the first one to get stuck in there. So we got Parks in goal. We got a back four of Frank Senior, Alvin, Rio, and Tonka. Then we've got sort of a quartet in midfield. We've got Bonds, we've got Brooking, we've got Noble, we've got Dev, and up front we've got Macca and we've got Cotti. I think that's a pretty solid team, Paul, to be honest. I think that's going to do a job there, Paul. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think so. Listen, it's not perhaps not the most flamboyant West Ham team that you could pick, but I'm pretty sure it would be solid.
Yeah, it'll be a 7. As you said, a lot of them will be 7 out of 10s every week, and it'd be consistently over the year, over the season.
And then they're 11 of my my favourite players, and as I keep saying, not necessarily the best players, but the ones that I would and quite happily did pay to watch over the years.
And that's exactly the point of this series. Is it's to find out about your 11. So look, it's been an absolute pleasure, Paul. I've really enjoyed it. It's been some lovely stories as well. A bit more insight than obviously maybe some fans, because obviously you might have worked with them and interviewed them as well. So it's lovely to hear all the stories and anecdotes. Thank you. I really appreciate your time. It's been really nice chatting.
Yeah, my pleasure, Russ.
And thank you to everyone for watching. Obviously, like, share, subscribe, watch all of them. We've got a hell of a lot more coming on as well. But until next time, thanks everyone. Bye-bye.